Remember, when the last time you faced a challenging task which exceeded your skills and knowledge. My memorable challenge happened when I was asked by my boss to help with the preparation of the conference speech on creative economy. And at that time, I was absolutely not an expert in the topic, and I knew really a little bit about it. And it was not enough to help with the preparation. What did you do when you faced this challenging task? Did you refuse? What I did, when I came back to my office, I opened the internet and started to search for valuable resources like interesting books, articles, or interviews with experts. And in a week's time, I knew enough to help with the preparation of the theoretical part of the speech. If you acted similar to me, and if you didn't refuse, then you know now on your own experience what is self-directed learning, because at that moment you were doing exactly that. According to the prevalent definition of self-directed learning offered by Malcolm Knowles, in its broadest meaning, self-directed learning describes a process in which individuals take the initiative, with or without the help of others, in diagnosing their learning needs, formulating learning goals, identifying human and material resources for learning, choosing and implementing appropriate learning strategies, and evaluating learning outcomes. You, as an educator, can design your educational course with the help of self-directed learning approach. For example, your course is on the topic of ecology or in the field of ecology. So the thing that you need to do is to set up an overall learning goal for the whole group. And it will be very general, like learning ecological situation in a certain region. And after that, learners will work together with you to decide on the scope of the project, timeline, and the end result that would demonstrate their personal learning. So one person can choose to learn about the ecological situation in the whole Europe and create educational website about that. Another person can choose to research the deforestation effects in Italy and write a report to the government about that. And the third one can choose a certain city and create a video blog or a YouTube channel based on the interviews with local people. By allowing to choose personal learning objectives, strategies, and resources, you allow your students to rely on their interests and their strengths. And it is the essence of the self-directed learning. Self-directed learning is a staged process, and each stage has its own methods. The first stage is called monitoring stage, and it's a preparatory stage. Here you should check in general, are your learners capable of self-directed learning or not? Because this approach is suitable not for everyone. The older your learners are, the more they tend to instructional approach. And it is connected not only to cognitive aspects of the age, but mostly on economical and cultural. Perhaps you already heard about the generation theory, which was developed by Neil Howes and William Strauss. So according to the theory, all people are divided into certain generations according to years of birth. And each generation has their own needs in learning as well. So so-called traditionalists who were born from 1922 to 1946 and so-called baby boomer generation who were born from 1946 till 1964 will be not very happy if you use a lot of interactive methods or if you use self-directed learning approach. But those who are called millennials and who were born from 1981 till 1996 will be very happy about both interactivity and self-directed learning approach. To check your learners and their readiness, you can use self-directed learning readiness scale. It is a self-report questionnaire developed in 1977, which is still very popular. It is designed to measure the complex of attitudes, skills, and characteristics that show an individual's current level of readiness to manage their own learning process. The adult version of this questionnaire is translated into 19 languages, including German, Dutch, Spanish, French, Lithuanian, Latvian, Greek, Portuguese, Russian, Polish, and Turkish. In this questionnaire, respondents are asked to read a statement and then indicate the degree to which that statement accurately describes their own attitudes, their own beliefs, actions, and skills. And using this scale, you will be able to conclude if your students and your learners are generally able for a self-directed learner, or better, maybe to use some other approach. And when you know that they're definitely ready and everything is okay, then you can go to the second step, and it will be assessing learning needs. So self-directed learning can be successful only in the case when your learners are really great motivated. And this motivation can happen only if the whole educational process relies on their acute learning needs. How to check learning needs? There are plenty of questionnaires available on this topic and available for this task, but also it is recommended not just to distribute a questionnaire for individual filling in, but to organize an open discussion in the group based on questions which you can find in those questionnaires. For example, the need analysis questionnaire, which is called WIN, Wants, Interests, and Needs, proposes first to ask questions about the wants that your learners have in certain educational areas, their interests and their needs. For instance, the general sphere is gardening, and then you ask your learners, what is your want in gardening? And somebody can write or answer you, I want to become the most famous gardener of my city. Then on the next stage, you have to ask them what level in the study area you need to acquire to fulfill those interests, wants, and needs. So what level you need to acquire to become the most famous gardeners in your city. So when you've finished with needs analysis, then you go to the setting goals. Goal setting helps to break the study into small, manageable chunks. And learners may have 1 or 2 overall goals or divide them into weekly goals, which usually increase motivation because it makes the learning process and the progress more noticeable. So you can use any methods for goal setting, but better to use SMART criteria together with that. What is SMART criteria? When you already have a list of goals, help your students to smarten them up, to check, in other words, if these goals are attainable, if they are realistic, if there is any good deadline for reaching these goals, if they are very specific or not. Because if the goal is very general, it is really difficult to set up steps for how to reach this goal. Or if it's goal not measurable, or if the learner cannot understand how to measure the final result, it will be also very difficult to set up steps for reaching this goal. For instance, somebody can write a goal like, I would like to learn how to meditate on a very good level. Then you can ask your learner, by which criteria or which indicators you will measure that you already meditate on a good level. What is a good level for you? Or if it's a goal realistic or not realistic, this learner can say that he wants to learn to meditate on a very good level in 2 days. Is it a realistic deadline? So SMART criteria really help much to check if goals are created and formulated and set up in a very efficient way. After you are ready with the goals, you go to the next step, which is choosing resources. And the methods of locating resources can really help on this stage. When adult learners are interested in a particular subject, it can be difficult for them to know where to start from. And when they progress in learning, new questions emerge and new resources are needed. So method of locating resources is a guide which is created by the educator and which helps learners to find necessary resources on every stage of learning. Types of resources can be very different. Massive open online courses like MOOCs, libraries, educational games, forums, even some closed or open groups which they can try to join for discussions. What is important, it is to structure these resources by the main source, and in each source you can locate resources according to the level of competence to make navigation easier for learners when they make a progress in learning. So they know that this particular group of resources are for beginners and this group of resources are for those who already are experienced in the topic. And don't forget about the large platforms providing free resources which do not require the permission to use. For example, the Open Education Resource Commons. It is a hive of literature, scholarly work, instructional materials, and open course from quite popular institutions. And this platform has a separate collection of learning materials for adult education. After you've finished with resources, you can start making a plan. This could take the form of a simple record of goal set, a more detailed plan in which weekly goals, materials, and study activities are laid out, or even a learning contract signed by the educator and the learner. One of the good examples of the method used on the stage is planning your time method. This method can be applied individually when you distribute the template for each learner and they fill it in individually, or you can help them by making the group discussion or making individual meetings and play a role of the educational coach. So when you ask them about the time available, realistically available for education, and help them to create additional questions, additional to those which are provided by the template, to track their progress during their educational process, learning process. There are many other methods available. One of them is the learning contract. It is based on a simple 4-step process that includes creating learning objectives, determining learning resources and strategies, evidence of accomplishment, and criteria for evaluating the evidence. Or another method, which is called self-directed learning project proposal and contract. It is like a document which is divided into 4 sections according to 4 simple questions. The first one, what do I want to learn? The second one, how to know and show what I learned. The third one, how will I learn it? And the fourth one, how will I monitor my own progress? Another example is personal development plan. It is similar to the others, but includes both target completion days and actual completion days, and a space to articulate what the learner needs from the educator and from the group. Templates for all these methods are created under the Creative Commons license, which means that you can freely download them, use them in original format, or change it according to your educational needs.